Hi guys, I hope you're having a beautiful day today. In this reading, I'm going to be looking into the question, how have you affected this person and what have they been thinking about since your last interaction with one another? There are three groups to choose from. Group 1 is the purple fluorite. Group 2 is the Girasol quartz. And group 3 is the lemon calcite. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. You chose the purple fluorite. So let's see, how have you affected this person? What's been on their mind since they last saw you or spoke to you? What is happening in terms of their emotions at this time? Okay, so we have joyful muse, inspiration, drifter, experiencing life as it comes, beloved, radical acceptance, and closing door, completion. So it feels like this person is very inspired by something that you are headed towards that you might have discussed with them. You could have opened up about goals and dreams, or even just kind of talking about life in general and the way that your mind works or that you perceive the world and the things that are important or meaningful to you that you've made this person aware of. It's caused them to kind of go within and sort of look at the ways in which they may have been settling for mediocrity, kind of burying their head in the sand and not taking a stand about certain things in their life, kind of just going through the motions, running along the hamster wheel, getting caught up in the rat race, not taking time to really stop and smell the roses or to ask themselves, is the way in which I live my life, energies and experiences that I invite in or things that I am reaching toward or moving towards, are these things really fulfilling on a deeper level, or am I just going with the motions of the expectations that like society or my family or my fears have placed upon me that has caused me to design a certain type of life that I've been living? So you have this person asking these deeper questions, and it feels like something where they're very excited to spend more time with you, to talk to you more. It feels like there's a lot of questions that they have, maybe just kind of deep ponderings about the meaning of life in general that they've kind of just kept to themselves. They've kind of just let their mind wander in all these different directions, but they've never shared this openly with other people, maybe like a fear of judgment or, just dealing with kind of shallow people, with NPCs that are just kind of content with the material world and see no reason to contemplate anything beyond that, or that don't kind of believe in the validity of anything beyond the here and now. And so there's a sense of almost like they've intersected with you, and you're someone who might not laugh at them about the nature of these like burning questions inside. You seem very like-minded, very open-minded, the type of person that it's like there could be an outlet for this hidden part of them to come out in the open and to start to establish connection or to become more of a dominant part of their reality. So it feels like this person is also kind of daydreaming and fantasizing about kind of what the nature of sort of like beyond these deeper conversations or, ways in which you've kind of inspired them to think outside of the box, there's a sense of them wondering, like, how would that translate into a romantic connection? Like, it's giving close confidant or best friend vibes, but there's a sense of almost like, how does that intersect with matters of the heart? Like, I've never had feelings for someone that had a developed aspect like this within themselves. I've never had the experience of this deeper part of me, or this more inquisitive part of me, being accepted, being, kind of empathized with. I've never resonated or met like a like-minded individual that's even just a seeker or questions things. And so it's got them really excited about the ways in which they may have been kind of holding on to a lot of like rejection from the past, where they only sort of like were able to show up as a very limited version of themselves within romance, something that, looked really good in the pictures, like painting that perfect image of, a white picket fence and going on the vacations together and everything's just kind of sunshine and roses. Partners that they may have experienced in the past that lacked depth and substance, or just sort of laughed off this deeper part of them, or made it very clear like there's no place for that within this image of success that the relationship that they were in, or different types of relationships, that was meant to kind of convey to everyone else or to the world in general. And so there's a sense of almost like exploring kind of this unknown about what would it be like to have a different type of perfection embodied in a with a person that isn't so consumed with image, that isn't so tied into this very sort of streamlined or limited view of like conformity and what the perfect couple looks like and the nature of success. It's almost like they see you as somebody who also factors into your choices and the things that you are focusing on at this time. Like, do I really like my life? Is this a well-lived life? Am I using my time wisely? Or am I just spending time? Am I just going through the motions? Am I risk averse in terms of striving for something more, or answering an inner call, even to just ask bigger questions, or to kind of exert your individuality out in the world? And so there's a sense of them recognizing that to proceed further with you, to take steps to cultivate this connection, this relationship more deeply, it's going to require a departure from what they've known before. It's a sense of almost like both of you embarking perhaps on this experience of like, we're both the teacher and the student to one another. And there's a sense like they're very excited about this. It opens up a lot of possibilities. You've activated something within this person. Their kundalini energy, it feels like, that might have been kind of quiet or dormant. They may have been sort of pent up or sort of stuck in terms of their creative essence. That has awakened within them. And there's now this charged sort of energy of like, you've come into their reality as an invitation to step beyond the ordinary into the experience of something more. It's like their wildest fantasy come to life in a sense, not because of who you are or what you look like or, kind of what you do for a living, nothing like that. This is kind of like the essence of something like a big adventure that feels like to be in contact with you is sort of like a special invitation. It's like the opportunity to experience something next level that maybe when they were younger, they always kind of dreamed of this sort of fantasy, this kind of uplifting or, very kind of beautiful or vibrant experience of partnership with someone that would have space within or the capacity within to make room for all that this person is. And they've not yet experienced that in the material world. And so they kind of tuck those dreams or those hopes away somewhere and just sort of settled, just been sort of drifting through life, drifting through romantic connections. And now here you are, and there's a sense of like, okay, the sky is no longer the limit. They're looking in terms of like, there are whole galaxies of love and connection and just closeness with another person that are possible, that are being kind of awakened or stirred within them. So let's take a little deeper look at this and see what else has been kind of going on within them since they last interacted with you. Okay, we have dreams of power, the initiate, and pointed focus. Yeah, so we've got this energy of like another doorway here, sort of like one door closes, another door opens. There may have even been something where they've been kind of holding on to a feeling within them that like they're not good enough as they are, and they must sort of, perform in order to be lovable, or kind of hide pieces of themselves away in order to be accepted. And you've clued this person in somehow through your energy, through the way in which you've interacted with one another, the things you've talked about, the experience that has taken place outwardly and inwardly, that there's no reason for this person to hold on to kind of that feeling of lack within them anymore, because to move forward with you initiates a new journey. It's not the shedding of an old version. It's stepping forth in that kind of enlarged aspect of who their kind of future is calling them to be. They see as well that it's kind of like no accident that you've encountered one another at this particular point in time. It's almost like they might have been going through the motions of their reality, and everyone around them was sort of sleepwalking. Everyone around them was just sort of content to get by, content to, complain about what they don't have, or judge other people, or just put that full focus on like the here and now. And something within this person has been kind of like thinking sort of in the ideal world, there would be somebody in my life, which it feels like they'd kind of equated that maybe as like just a friend that would come in, or, kind of like an associate, somebody where it's like, okay, I wouldn't just have like a virtual community of strangers that I could, exchange these ideas with, and we have that dialogue, but someone in my physical reality that like we could go out and grab lunch, and we're not just talking about politics. We could, spend an afternoon together, and it's not just going to be, gossiping about what this celebrity's up to, or this kind of person in their life has going on or doesn't have going on. There's like a sense that with you, there's the opportunity in the here and now to have an experience with somebody who thinks about deeper things, who can touch on those surface level topics, but that's not the limits to who you are or what matters to you or your focus in life. And the fact that there's like romantic attraction, romantic feelings, there's like chemistry between the two of you, this exceeds their expectations of sort of like what they were hoping to experience. That again, it's like we could cultivate a deep and unique kind of friendship, but then to add the fact that we can become lovers, or maybe you already are lovers and you're starting to kind of peel back the layers on these deeper levels with one another, it's kind of like this is wish fulfillment and then some. Their soul is very satisfied with the experience of having encountered you. And it's a sense that there's a feeling within them of like, I'm going to have to grow beyond my comfort zone. Not only am I going to have to allow myself to be seen as more of who I really am inside, some of those more intricate layers. I can't just put on a front. I can't just operate an ego. I have to be willing to like let my soul be witnessed. But there's also a knowing within them that they're going to have to extend their capacity to hold space for you and things about you, your experience, your perspectives, your interests that are beyond their knowing. It's almost like you've been walking these two different paths and you've intersected with one another, and there's an opportunity to learn and grow in a spiritual sense from one another, but also to experience like a combination of these varied paths or varied experiences or different things you have going on in your life at this point, and to create this sort of happy medium in terms of what furthering the romance would look like. Like if it got to the point where you were like, you're dating, then you're a couple, then you're moving in together, and then maybe you get married, and it's kind of like, what would that look like? If we're coming from these two different traditions, these two different backgrounds, these two different kind of levels of awareness within ourselves, that this isn't an experience where it would be, you know, pushing and shoving and like my way's right and your way's wrong, and you just stay over there with kind of your opinions and your values and the things that are relevant to you, and I'll just stay over here in my corner with what matters to me, and then we'll sort of meet in the middle, you know, for more of those surface level appearance purposes. There's a sense of almost like this aspect of them could be lived out loud within the context of like a shared experience with you. And so it feels to be something that is very significant for them. It's very important for them. You already at this point are a very valued presence. You're a very unique individual, and there's a sense of them understanding that you are some kind of invitation for them to like level up, to recommit themselves to their spiritual path, or to start to maybe even take the things that you talk about or what kind of stirs within them and use that as the opportunity to like quest for more information, to start to kind of chip away at things that had been like hard and fast rules, or, you know, belief systems or teachings and traditions that have kind of shaped their core personality, or that they've clung to at this point. And that there's a sense of almost like the ability to sort of find commonalities within those differences, where they feel very enriched by the experience of you. Like you're meant to kind of help them to understand more deeply themselves, and also kind of ask those questions about, how can I strive for more or to be better? Not just in terms of with what I'm doing for a living, or how I'm taking care of my health, or my relationships with, you know, other people in my life, but how can I be better with my relationship with myself, with my relationship with source consciousness, with my relationship with my past, with my relationship with my future. Like you shine a light on something within this person's core that nobody has ever resonated with before. Nobody's ever penetrated into these depths within, and nobody's ever brought their attention up to these higher heights in the same way that you do, without preaching, without forcing, without sort of like imposing your views. You're just being yourself, and it's making this person feel comfortable to kind of come out of their shell and expand into a more relevant version of who they are, not relevant to their past, but like relevant to their future. So let's get a couple message cards from this person's higher self and see what they want you to know right now. Okay, and they say, you have me lost in my emotions. Yeah, so this is somebody, it feels like, that is taking a lot of time to be very mindful in terms of whatever their next communication is with you. They're wanting to take a step beyond the surface level. They're also thinking back on things that you've talked about or things that you've shared, and there's a sense of like, I want to help you know that I'm an active listener, that I took these things very seriously and very much to heart, and that I'm not just going to, ignore these crucial aspects of who you are that you've opened up about to them. So maybe trusted them enough to kind of show them a bit behind like the mask that you wear for society's sake. We have these images that we present to people, people that we meet casually, people that we don't know very well, people that know us better, the authenticity of the face that we wear when we are just dealing with ourselves. In some way, this person feels that you've given them the privilege of like a peek behind that curtain, a glimpse into sort of like who you really are beyond the surface layer. And that's something that they're not taking that lightly. They feel that that is kind of like an honor or a privilege, what you've demonstrated to them, or that kind of open door that now presents itself. And so there's a sense of being very deliberate with kind of whatever the next get together will be like, whatever the next conversation will be like, because they're wanting to continue this kind of flow or this motion towards something bigger and something deeper than what you've experienced up to this point. They also say, I can't wait to love you. So this person is definitely, daydreaming, fantasizing about the future. What would it be like to date you? What would it be like to be in a long-term committed relationship with you? What would it be like to marry you? What would it be like to grow old with you? What would it be like to start a family with you? What would it be like to travel the world with you? All these different kind of thoughts that are sort of swimming around. And so it feels like they're also feeling the need to kind of like pace themselves, take their time, because there's a sense of like, I could dive in deep and be totally fine with my life changing in all ways imaginable. Like where you would lead, I would gladly follow. And so there's a sense that they're very excited about what the future holds for the two of you. We also have, we see each other in dreams. So, again, this is like fantasizing, dreaming, kind of like you are some sort of manifestation to them. You are that wish fulfillment. You're that type of person that they never knew that they needed, but you're like everything that their soul is letting them know, like you require this at this point in time. This will be deeply fulfilling for you beyond your wildest imaginings. And so it feels like they're trying to get into a place of surrender with like the reality that, yeah, there's now the ability to build toward a better type of future with someone that isn't just a good fit on the surface level, but somebody that really kind of like fits within their soul. They also say, don't wait, do what gives you joy. So it feels like this person is very fascinated by whatever you have going on in your life, however you live your life, whatever your daily routine is, anything that you've been like working towards, you're trying to kind of build or create. Maybe this is a passion project. Maybe this is, goals that you're striving towards professionally, or, even kind of like your relationship with yourself, sort of like cultivating that garden within so the world around you can bloom accordingly. All of that, your methodology, your process, your vibe, your glow, your aura, your energy, all of that is so tantalizing to this person. And they're not wanting you to kind of dim your light on account of them, but it's like, keep shining, keep shining brighter, because you've captivated this person and they're reaching beyond their comfort zone to kind of rise to that level to meet you where you are. They also say, baby, I miss you. So it feels like they may be trying to, again, like exercise some kind of restraint or self-control. Like, okay, I don't want to reach out too quickly. I don't want to like, message this person too often. I don't want to get, they almost feel like they could get lost within this relationship or whatever is going on between the two of you now and what that can become. But almost kind of like, I could lose myself, but that's fine. I wouldn't mind, because a part of me feels like I would actually be found in your presence. And so there's a sense of them needing to kind of pull their attention away from this sort of dreamy, fantasizing energy and really look around and seriously kind of ask themselves, are they ready for whatever can happen next between the two of you? Not just, okay, we deepen our bond and we get closer and, we're spending more time with one another, but like expansiveness within. Are they really ready to kind of embark on this experience with you, and sort of all that has become known to them so far, and all that is sort of hinted at in terms of what's possible moving forward. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got A, M, S, L, O, U, G, B, C, X, D, J, V, E, and F. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you'd like a personal reading, there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another video. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the Girasol Quartz. So let's see what's been going on with this person since their last interaction with you. What's happening with them emotionally? What are they thinking about? What might happen next between you? Okay, we have straddling worlds, wandering between realms. Eyes of the eagle, rising above the fray. The crossing, initiation. And lost in space, needing direction. So these energies speak to the fact that this person is kind of triggered or challenged by either something that you said, something that is kind of expressed in your energy or in how you present yourself in some way, or kind of things that are meaningful for you or what you're striving for in your life in general, that is outside the bounds of their comprehension. It can speak to somebody who's not as awakened as you, not as aware as you, something that might even have to do with certain beliefs or practices that you either talked about or that it's apparent about you, or something that is just like in your energy, it's in your vibe, that conflicts with sort of traditional views that have meant a lot to them. Something within their ego as far as like, this is how things are. This is the way people show up. This is kind of what the meaning or purpose of life is, or what people should do in order to have like a normal or ordinary reality, or what they've been wanting for themselves that doesn't align with what you're wanting. They may almost see you as somebody kind of flaky, sort of out in the ozone. They might even, for some, see you as kind of like delusional, like you're sort of lost in your delusion. They can't see the same vision that you do, or the way in which you've talked about things. They may have mistaken kind of like an inner call towards something more, with you being kind of arrogant or egotistical. There's a sense as well that if you've held space for this person, you know, like paid them compliments, or you were just trying to be honest with them, this might have also kind of triggered something where they think you're trying to manipulate them. And it feels like this again is like you've triggered this person's wounds or this person's shadows. And so it feels like something that they're feeling very nervous or very uncertain, or like it wouldn't necessarily be in their best interest to proceed forward towards something more with you at this time in their life. There's a sense that this person may have just been looking for like peaceful and easy connections, something that's very low maintenance. And there's something about you which kind of has signaled to them, You're not willing to settle. You're somebody that holds yourself accountable and to a very high standard. And so they as well would be held to that standard. Like, you hold people in your life to a higher standard than the types of individuals they're used to dealing with in romance. There's a sense that they almost kind of felt like a competitiveness within you, and you may have just been trying to be friendly, trying to make connection, trying to be very honest. If they asked questions about you and you were very open about those things and just whatever you told them, it touched on a nerve within them that's kind of like, who does that person think that they are? Or even something where you might just have a very positive attitude about things, like you're choosing positivity as opposed to being in kind of like a more negative or a low vibrational version of yourself, or to focus on that about particular circumstances. And that this might have been something that kind of like made them very self-conscious, because there's a sense of almost feeling that you could have been putting out a bit of toxic positivity. You're a little too happy. You're a little too self-aware. You're a little too kind of in love with your own life. Or even if things aren't going really well, there's a sense of like you're too focused on solutions. Like shouldn't you be sort of ruminating within problems? This person almost feels like somebody that their ideal match at this point is someone that would need like a rescuer, and it pumps their ego up to feel that they can kind of step in and be the hero that saves the day. They can respond to that distress within others. And there's a sense that you don't need that from someone, that they are not at a place within themselves emotionally or spiritually or actually to be able to recognize that like they can step into that rescuer archetype. But it may even just be something like rescuing you from the types of disappointment that other partners have shown in your past, in terms of like leaving you high and dry, hanging out when times are good, and then sort of bailing when it's difficult or when it's stormy. They're not at a level within their reality or within themselves to be able to see like, yeah, there's still a purpose for this part of you, but it's not just going to be in someone to kind of come in and fix all the problems, someone who's going to come in and kind of pay all the bills, or somebody that's going to, come in and be that kind of problem solver, that solution, that kind of one that sort of lifts another up. And it feels like this is something to where this doesn't indicate a flaw within you. It's kind of just a threshold within them, that can speak to this being kind of like a karmic connection, something where you might not hear from this person again. It's likely they will just ghost you altogether if their ego's really triggered. Or for some, they could just kind of, give you the brush off, just kind of the polite thanks but no thanks. Something that it feels like is kind of instrumental for both of you at this point in your paths, in terms of you continuing to be true to yourself, continuing to recognize that like rejection is often divine protection, and that which is meant for you won't pass you by. It may also be something that like for this person, it's sort of like you're that blessing in disguise. You've come into their life for an opportunity for them to kind of understand or to learn sort of strength in a different way about themselves, but they're failing that test at this point. Like their first kind of reaction, or what's surfaced within them, it highlights and illustrates kind of like you're not on the same page, or it's something to where there's too much of a power struggle in this situation. Like even if you're humble, this person almost feels like to progress forward with you would be like having too many cooks in the kitchen. It's too much of like a powerful energy and a powerful energy, and they've never experienced that before. They may have dealt with really kind of like docile people, helpless people with like a victim mentality, a lack mentality, and that has helped to kind of overemphasize this person's ego. This feels like somebody who hasn't done any internal work. It's kind of like anything that's difficult or that challenges them to step outside of the comfort zone, they push that away. They want something that's quiet. They want something that's peaceful. They want something that's ordinary. And they don't understand that like that can happen, but it requires, in this instance and in a lot of instances, kind of rising beyond the status quo in order to establish that peace on a higher level or a higher echelon. Like this is almost kind of like a blessing that has come to them, but they can't see it for what it is. They're only looking at you and this circumstance through their wounding, through their pride and ego. They're not seeing like a deeper compatibility beyond the surface level based on, again, kind of like what you have going on in your life, what the interactions between the two of you are, what has happened, or even like the vibe that you give off. It feels like this person is closed off to the idea of like vibes, aura, energy, soul connections. That's something that is either very taboo for them. That's something that may, collide again with like traditional views, or it's something that is just, they're not awakened, they're not aware enough. They're a very close-minded individual. And so they can't hold space within themselves for other views beyond their own. And it feels like something that, as much as there's kind of like an energy of dismissal, sort of like I'm triggered and I don't want anything to do with this person anymore, they can't stop looking at this. They're kind of like sitting in this negativity, almost like, why did you shake me out of my comfort? Why did you present yourself as one thing, and then we get to talking, or I spend some time with you and you've ruffled my feathers, even if you've been very polite, very kind, very generous, very open, very honest. Why did you, it's like someone with a victim mentality themselves. Why did you do this to me? And there's a sense of almost that you make this person feel very self-conscious because you're highlighting a degree of hypocrisy within them. They may have been sort of like, I'm looking for a real person. I'm looking for a real one. I'm looking for a genuine person. Everybody's so fake in this world. Everybody's got an agenda. Everybody's just out to manipulate. And then you come along and it's like, okay, be careful what you wish for, because here it is. And now they're looking that gift horse in the mouth. Now they're second guessing that. Now it's like you're a little too real for them. You're a little too out there. And so it's almost like they're looking for those flaws. They're looking to kind of pick you apart as someone very ungrounded, as opposed to somebody who's kind of like your stars on the rise. They're not taking the time to kind of really learn, it feels like, or there's no kind of interest in learning sort of, well, what has brought you to this point in your life and your journey? Why are you this way? All they can see is the opposite energy between the two of you. And it's something that there's almost like a feeling that it would be more trouble than it's worth. They don't need that kind of stress. They want someone that is just quiet, that's just going to acquiesce to them, where they can be the big dog. They can be the star. They can be the one in charge. And they're kind of failing, it feels like, to understand that you may have kind of entered their life as an opportunity for them to harness their star power, and like something transcendent that could have been experienced between the two of you that would be the makings of a power couple. This is like somebody who wants, you may have control issues. It's like, I have to be the one in control and in the power position, in the driver's seat. Who are you to be so self-assured? Or like, this is something that's outside of what they're accustomed to. And so there's almost like a fear of otherness in this circumstance. So let's get a little bit deeper and see kind of what else is going on within this person towards you. Okay, we have dominators, dream recall, and light switch. So there's a feeling that already you outshine this person, even if you're in a place of like struggle and you're trying to kind of build something for yourself at this point. The energy that you hold within, the strength that your path has kind of asked you to cultivate within yourself, or that it's unearthed within you, this threatens kind of a level of mediocrity within this person. There may be something about you that's a little outspoken, and there's a sense of almost like feeling that to progress forward with you would pull attention away from them as the hero, as the superstar, as kind of the big man on campus kind of an energy. That there's a sense that they were drawn to this light initially, but to get up close and personal with you, to have a conversation or an exchange, even virtually with you, this is something that highlights kind of their own flaws and inadequacy, ways in which they've been cutting corners in their own life, or have kind of just been pumping up their image based on ego. But this is somebody who's not ever taken time to kind of like cultivate real substance within. There's a sense of feeling that like they would just become like, you're carrying main character energy, which was very delicious to this person. They almost might have thought, hey, this will make a really good showpiece. This person will be a great accessory on my arm. They'll really help my image in some way. But then the reality of you is kind of like, yeah, that can be the case, but they're also then challenged to kind of be that for you as well. Equal give and take. And there's a sense that this is something that has made them feel kind of like, well, if you're the main character, they can't envision for themselves that there would be room for them as a main character within a romantic dynamic. And it's almost like, I'm the hero of my story. I'm not just going to be a side piece or a side character in someone else's narrative. There's a sense that you're too self-assured, too dominant. They wanted someone that was more passive, more submissive, someone that was going to like fawn all over them. This may be somebody that gets a lot of attention. They've got like a reputation of, being very important within their community, or, very likable, very charming. And there's a sense of they're not at a place of seeing that like a partner that would possess those qualities equally could help both people could help one another to sort of shine brighter. They don't see it as that. This is somebody that may kind of look at romance as matters of conquest. And you initially gave off kind of, again, this sense of almost like, well, that would be a really great person for me to swoop up, to get in a connection with them, would make me look really good to others. And they were just judging that from the surface. But the fact that you're a person with substance, that you've got a brain, that you've got opinions, that you've got goals, that you've got a life, that, maybe you're not chasing this person. You're kind of just living your life, and they're expected to put in effort. That's something that may be revealing how low effort of an individual they are. That there's a sense that they don't see this as an opportunity to kind of rise into a better version of themselves, but almost a sense of like you would just overpower them or take something away from them. You'd become the center stage. You'd become the main character. And then who would they be? So this may be something, again, where this is like a karmic connection with that idea of like a light switch. They're not just able to kind of swipe this away and like, that's that. They're thinking about this. They keep coming back around to it because you've held a mirror up to their wounds, to their deficits. And so it feels like likely you'll kind of just go your separate ways. You may not hear from this person again, or again, they'll kind of just give you the brush off. But this is a sense of like, out of sight is not out of mind. They're very just kind of like mad about sort of what has happened within. They feel tricked in this situation, even though they tricked themselves out of a blessing, is what it looks like. And so it's definitely, you've made a reaction within this person, but it doesn't feel like it's anything where at this point they could envision like, how could our two worlds combine that kind of benefits both of us actually and romantically? Like, they're not at that place within themselves, within their consciousness, within their emotional maturity. They got too many wounds. They're too used to kind of feeding the ego. And if this is almost somebody who's never tasted anything before that had the ability to kind of nourish the soul, and so they've pushed it away as kind of like something unsavory because they're not getting it. This may even be something where this is the kind of thing where it's like further down the road, they could look back and see you as the one that got away. But at this particular point in time, there's almost a sense of like wanting to kind of push this connection away, or push the experience of you away, because it stirred something within, like uncomfortable emotions within. And they're kind of projecting that blame, and instead of sort of looking at that as like, okay, what's this trigger trying to teach me? It feels like they've never asked a question like that. They've only pointed fingers, and you've sort of directed that attention inward for them. So let's get some message cards from their higher self and see what they want you to know. Okay, and they say, I feel like I'm obsessing over you. Yeah, so that's that energy of somebody that's like, I don't want anything to do with this person. I don't want anything to do with what they have going on. It's weird. It feels ungrounded. It feels uncomfortable. Whatever has kind of been plucked within me in terms of raw nerve endings or wounds within, it's something that is very much, they're recoiling from this, and yet they can't. It's like you've awakened something within them that can't go back to sleep. It may be kind of in a very negative space at this particular point in time. So, if you're feeling kind of some negative or weird vibes at this point, it definitely could be coming from this person, because they're very agitated, very triggered by the sense of almost like having to confront sort of their own relationship with power and control, and how it has been kind of called into question through the way in which you are an empowered person. You're a self-validating and self-sustaining individual. This doesn't speak to any kind of lack on your part, anything you need to water down or dim in terms of your shine. This is like highlighting sort of where this person's at in terms of their consciousness, in terms of their emotional maturity, in terms of like the life they've created for themselves. And so you may be a karmic person in their reality that's kind of awakening them to some sort of healing journey, some sort of dark night of the soul energy. Something has been kind of brought to light in terms of those uncomfortable feelings, or feeling very, very sort of threatened by your presence in some sort of way that is lingering. They're not able to kind of outrun that at this point. They also say, I have your picture saved on my phone. So it feels like even they can't look you in the eye. They don't maybe necessarily want to see you. They don't want to talk to you. They may have even kind of like blocked you, or getting ready to do that on social media, block your number, kind of avoid you if this is somebody that you would see out and about on a regular basis. And it feels like every time they're in your presence, or they even just look at your picture, they see something you post on social media, it triggers almost like a hornet's nest within this person of all these kind of like bad feelings within, because there's something about you that is way more authentic than whatever it is they try to paint about themselves. If they try to paint themselves as a good guy or a good girl, there's a sense of almost like that is just sort of an empty statement, because there's a truth or an authenticity within you that transcends those definitions of good and bad. You hold a light inside of you that this person can't even comprehend. And so this is something that, may be kind of their initiation onto that spiritual path, the process of their humbling, depending on sort of what they do, or, kind of like how they kind of contain these feelings within or choose not to. But it definitely feels like this is someone that's going to try to avoid you at all costs. They also say, I see a lot of synchronicity. So this may be something that's very outside of their comfort zone. They may be like, did you put a spell on me? Did you do some witchcraft? What have you done? What have you awakened within me? I was going through my life and the world around me was just kind of dull, or I was able to control it. Everything was very predictable. And now all of a sudden I'm kind of aware of these deeper and uncomfortable, these disruptive feelings inside of me. And then that's also, it feels like, translating to the world around them too. It may even be that kind of this negativity within them that has kind of stirred up, it's affecting how other people are treating them. Other people aren't looking at them with as much kind of like, wow, you're the hero. You're the cat's meow. You're the greatest thing ever. Other people are challenging them, and they're equating it to when they've encountered you. And so there's a sense that you've set them off their path. You've upset their equilibrium just by your presence in their reality. They also say, I can hear and feel you so strongly. So things that you've said to them kind of like linger. They're stuck within, and there's a sense of like, who does she think she is? Who does he think he is? They've taken like personal offense to something, like you were trying to present that you were better than them or better than other people, when really it's just a sense of you being honest about your views on things, or your journey, or your experience in life, or kind of what matters, what's important to you. They took it as virtue signaling in some sort of way, and it's kind of caused them to sort of spiral into a very negative place within themselves. Yeah, and they also say, I'm not good enough. So again, there's some part of them that is kind of triggered now because they've been riding this wave of like toxic positivity, of avoidance, of kind of just good vibes only, and anything that is really challenging, anything that's very difficult, anything that is other than kind of praising them or pedestalizing them, or celebrating them for like who they are, kind of like golden child energy. Anything that's beyond that, beyond just kind of like you're the best and there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing you need to change, it's everybody else, you're kind of the opposite of that. Even if you've not criticized this person, or maybe you did give them a piece of your mind, you've given them some ultimatums, or you were just truthful with them, you called them out on something. That's almost like, nobody's ever said no to me before. Nobody's ever talked to me like that. Nobody's ever looked at like me trying to give them attention as just sort of like, yeah, okay, so here you are, another person on this planet. What makes you so special? You might have just been kind of unimpressed by who they are, by what they have, by, something they were trying to like showboat in terms of the ego, or, their position in life, or, kind of what they have going on materially. It's like that didn't impress you. Or you kind of acknowledged that, but you were sort of asking for something more, or bringing the attention to something more. And so this is kind of illustrating to this person that a lot of this kind of grand vision that they have for themselves, or the image they've presented to others, it's just based on falsity, that they've never really looked internally. They've not cultivated anything inside. This is somebody that like things have maybe always gone well for them. And you could be somebody that you've had to overcome things, or, you've had to kind of leave behind certain things and kind of move in a different direction. And so that level of personal strength, or grit, or determination, it threatens kind of this person's image, which was built off of ease, rather than kind of anything that was sort of cultivated through struggle. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got N, M, Y, L, A, G, T, R, T, X, B, P, L, D, H, U, and S. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, there's a link for that in the bio. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the lemon calcite. So let's see. What has this person been thinking about since your last interaction? What's been stirred up within them? What's going on emotionally right now? Okay, we have hollow bone, teachability, whale song, resonating, sky dancers, surrender, and lost compass, getting back to integrity. So this is the energy of somebody that feels like they've been wandering kind of aimlessly through their life, maybe not looking for love or kind of searching for love in all the wrong places, always coming up empty-handed. You know, different person, same story. That might have made them very jaded towards connections, very kind of like hopeless within themselves, almost like maybe I'm asking for too much, maybe I'm unlovable, maybe I ought to just settle, maybe I'm just supposed to be alone, maybe love's not meant for me in this lifetime. They had surrendered some aspect within themselves that had thought that like there'd be a perfect match for them, or somebody that presented as one thing and then the reality of that person matched up, or almost like a threshold that they couldn't get beyond with people. This could be somebody that's had a lot of failed talking stages, a lot of notches on their belt, just in terms of like there's chemistry, there's spark, there's potential, but then I let a little bit of the real me come out, or I wait until this other person reveals a bit of themselves and it's a mismatch every single time. That might have just made them very frustrated. And all of a sudden you've come into their life and there's a renewal of hope. There's a sense of almost like maybe I needed to reach that place of surrender and kind of just forget it. Maybe in another lifetime, love will be for me. And they'd focus their energy on themselves. And now they've come across somebody, they've come across you, and their intuition is telling them, like if you have one grain of hope left inside of you, if your hope is like a mustard seed, plant it in this situation. Or maybe you've planted that mustard seed in their heart and it's starting to germinate. That is helping to kind of raise this person's spirits, raise their energy, and is really causing them, it feels like at this particular point in time, to step into the energy of gratitude, because there's something, some kind of resonance between the two of you, something where it's almost like we're so different and yet we're two peas in a pod in a lot of ways, that's helping them to recognize that they may have taken a long route in their life to this point where they're meeting you. Maybe, you know, you guys are older, or, you know, you've been through your ups and downs in love, and it's kind of like all of that had some sort of purpose, because it's acclimated their palate to the taste of loss. And now they're tasting the potential of success with you. And it's different than how that's taken place within other people. So this may even be something where they're very grateful that they took a step back from dating, that they've maybe gone to therapy, they've done some self-help, they've done some self-reflection. They've strengthened their relationship with God or with source consciousness. They focused on the things in their life they could control, or they were able to kind of experience positive results from, that may not involve like relationships with other people. Maybe they focused on their career. They focused on, reaching for dreams, wanting better for themselves, their health, their wellness. They've prioritized other things. They've taken their attention away from that desire for companionship or even a need to kind of like fill a void within their life with empty company or like a warm body. They've chosen better for themselves at some point, relatively speaking, recently, it feels like, to when they've met you or they've encountered you. And you're almost kind of like the fulfillment of some covenant or promise that they made to themselves. Like, I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to keep banging on closed doors. Maybe they've let go of like an on again, off again situation, like a toxic ex, something where they'd been holding out hope somebody from the past would return and would choose them, or allow this person to choose them, whatever that looks like. And there's a sense of they've released that and they've been facing towards the future, and it's put them into this right time, right place kind of energy where now they're able to perceive you. Now they've aligned with you. You're bringing forth this energy of like a fresh beginning. Maybe everything I thought I knew about love isn't the way it always has to be. You've changed this person's direction in some sort of way where there may even be kind of a motivation to continue and like stay the course with something that they have going on that they feel has kind of like changed their life or changed their energy in such a way that it's put you both along a similar path or in one another's lives at this point in time, or it's making them feel better, it's making them look better, it's making them have a better outlook or a different perspective on things. And this is helping them, it feels like, or they're seeing it as kind of a necessary ingredient to continuing to move forward through the process of getting to know you, to explore things with you, to take leaps of faith, to express themselves emotionally. There's a sense that things that you've said to this person, it's like you could read their mind. There might have been some deja vu that went on. Signs and synchronicities that they're like, this is what I was hoping for. This is what I was looking for. This is what I need in order to provide me that reassurance very consciously that like, this is a good idea to progress forward. They may have prayed about this situation. They may have asked their angels or their ancestors or God or source consciousness or whatever it is that they kind of relate to beyond like the material world. They've tapped into that energy and it's been overwhelmingly green lights. It's been yes in terms of the answer of like, should I hold space for this? Should I be open to this? Should I progress forward with this person? And it's like, yes, keep moving forward. Keep participating with this. Keep your focus on yourself and keep space within for that little mustard seed of hope. Maybe something you've exchanged between the two of you. You each had a little seed of hope and you're like, here, this is all I have left within. This is all I got to give at this point. And this person's like, yeah, that's all I have inside of myself too. It's all I have to give. Perfect. So we're on the same page with one another. And there's a sense that they feel a lot of freedom to be themselves and to also very delicately but very consistently kind of stretch beyond their limits or their comfort zone to entwine with you in some sort of way. There's a sense that they see you as a very sacred being. You carry a very sacred energy. Experiences with you, things you've talked about, ways in which you've exchanged energy, even from afar. There may have been like activity in the astral realm, or you may have come to them in dreams, and that's been very healing for them. Rather than draining their energy or it being a very draining experience with one another, it's like I feel charged. And I don't feel that I'm like taking from this person. You give the opposite of like vampiric energy. You give the energy of somebody, it feels like, which is almost like a breath of fresh air for them, is kind of like, I'm sure you've encountered a lot of people drawn to your light only with the intention to take, with nothing inside of them to leave behind. And they feel that there's almost like a kindred spirit dynamic going on here. Like, I'm in the same boat. I've been where you are. I can empathize with that. Maybe that's something you've talked about with one another, or it's just kind of unspoken. There's a sense that this person's like intuitive side as well is really connecting in with this. There's a lot within them that is kind of like, this makes sense. This connection makes sense. It feels like something that is for my well-being. It's for my highest good, but they're not looking at it just from the place of like lust or the fact that like, yeah, we get along so well, we like the same music, we like the same foods, we, you know, come from similar backgrounds, like beyond all of that, because many of those things may be totally opposite, or they could align completely with you. Just kind of take whatever resonates for your particular situation. But there's a sense of like, with their energy, this feels right. They feel both at peace and very expansive in your presence. It's like the idea of when two givers enter a connection, that's when the magic happens. And there's a sense of like, are you that giver that matches the fact that I'm a giver as well? They almost feel like you could be that yin to my yang, or the yang to my yin. You could be something that is beyond all those definitions. And there's a curiosity within this person, like what comes next? What's going to happen in this situation? Because it feels to be something that's almost a reward for their efforts to choose better for themselves overall. So this may be somebody that's recently kind of like started a new chapter for themselves. They've cut away from certain things. They've been trying to cultivate healthier habits, healthier mindsets. And so you're intersecting very beautifully with that path that they're creating for themselves. There's a lot of enthusiasm about like, I want to talk to you. I want to see you. I want to spend more time with you. But also a sense of feeling that like you're someone who could honor boundaries within them without them needing to be like mean about it, or without them needing to kind of push or over explain themselves. There's almost just like a symmetry between the two of you where you've each got enough going on in your own lives, or you're able to kind of connect with one another deeply energetically to where it's like, if I need to take time for myself, or I need to kind of like take time away from this situation, you're not gonna pressure me. You're not gonna interpret that in the wrong way. You're secure enough within yourself that this isn't a situation where we're going to end up codependent with one another. This isn't going to be like a trauma bond. This isn't going to be a toxic situation. It's like this person has demanded better of themselves, and now you're in their life, or your dynamic has now revealed kind of higher layers to it that's like, yeah, this fits in with that kind of trajectory that I've been aiming for within my own life. It's like the idea of their long lost best friend, but more than that, it's almost like a soul bond. They may be kind of asking themselves at this point, like, I wonder if you're my soulmate. I wonder if you're that person, my perfect match. Out of these billions of people on this planet, maybe you're that one that's meant for me. And we either couldn't recognize each other as that before because we needed to grow, we needed to evolve, or we didn't come into one another's lives sooner because there were lessons we needed to go through. We needed to acclimate ourselves to the understanding of what love is not in order to be able to truly and deeply perceive everything that love is and that love can be. And you align very precisely with that sense within, like the sky's the limit and then some within this situation. There's a sense too with this idea of like with hollow bone, there's a sense of like, my family's going to love you. My parents are going to love you. My kids are going to love you. My friends are going to love you. That you're somebody that people in their life that they care about, there's a sense of like, these people are really going to encourage this connection. Maybe they've already shared some things about you with other people, or maybe you've met people that are important to them recently, or you know, you're about to in some sort of way, and there's a sense of like, these other people are very supportive of that, very excited about that. It's been positive remarks across the board. And there, even if this is like you're not at that place with one another yet, there's a sense of like, I want to bring you home for dinner. I want to have holidays with you. I want to, you know, meet the people that you come from, to have a deeper understanding of like who you are, either the similarities or the ways in which you're vastly different. I want you to meet the people that I come from so you can understand those same kind of things about me as well. There's a sense of like, This might have been somebody that historically has been with people that like weren't good for them, or friends and family didn't like approve of those connections. Might have been just sort of nice, you know, to kind of give their loved one the benefit of the doubt, like, okay, this is who you choose, so fine, we'll make those concessions for this person even though they're no good. And there's a sense that like, or it even could have been past partners, there was a lot of pushback. It created a lot of strain within their family dynamics because they brought people around that weren't really good for them. And the people that loved them could see that and maybe didn't stay quiet about it. So there could have created rift or friction in the past. But there's a sense of like, you're a very different presence. You're a very different kind of person. You're like the type of person that they're certain, or they've already received some kind of feedback, like everyone's going to love you. Everyone's going to see that like, yeah, finally, he's got someone that's good for him. Finally, she's got someone that's good for her. Finally, there's somebody that we can actually stand having our holidays with. We don't just have to put on that plastic smile and tolerate the intolerable. Finally, it's something where it's like, yes, we're going to celebrate this. We're going to support this. We're going to encourage this relationship to move forward because you two are really good for one another. You're good for one another in the here and now. You're good for one another with whatever your lives will develop into moving forward. So there's definitely a sense of like homecoming, that you fit in a very healthy way into like better aspects that they've been reaching for in life and even in love. So let's see what else they've been thinking about since your last interaction. What's going on inside them? Okay, we have portals, dominators, and the three worlds. Yeah, so that idea of the three worlds speaks to the idea of they want to combine forces with you. They want to meet your friends. They want to meet your family. They want to bring you home to meet mom and dad. They want to hang out with you and their siblings, you and the cousins, you and the friends. There's a sense of like, I think everyone will get along really well together. If you have kids from previous relationships, or they have kids from previous relationships, there's a sense of like, I think that we would be good for kind of that, you know, step parent sort of energy, or the idea of like blending families, kind of making one big happy family. They're thinking in those terms of kind of like, I want to get to know you more. I want to experience more with you. I think that you're a very positive influence in my life so far. And I think that you'd be a really great addition to the type of positivity I'm trying to cultivate in more of my inner sanctum. There's a sense here with this idea of dominators that when they're with you, they feel anything is possible. Aspects about themselves that they may have been very hard on themselves for, like choosing the wrong partners in the past, or, you know, certain kind of like wounds, maybe even inner childhood wounding that had reflected in the nature of romantic connections with other people, that they've like identified those root issues. They've been trying to work on those things, or at least being aware of them in the hopes that they wouldn't just repeat an unconscious pattern. There's a sense of them feeling they've had some kind of victory. They have some sort of leverage over that pattern now, because here you are in their reality, and you're unlike the people that sort of took them for a ride before. You're unlike the people that diminished their self-worth or brought drama and chaos into their life. You're different from the people that left them worse for wear in the aftermath of connections falling apart. You bring out the best in this person. They might have been with people in the past that like both people sort of brought out the worst within one another. They may have had some very damaged connections, bad breakups, messy divorce, you know, things like that that could have made them have to be more cautious about sort of like, okay, who do I give my heart to? Who am I opening my life to? Who am I attracting in? What am I chasing? Like they've asked those questions, or they've reached a point of like, I can't just keep thinking it's everyone else to blame. I'm this common denominator. What can I do to change my odds of success? And that might have even meant kind of like taking a step away from romance. You could have met this person through kind of just extraordinary circumstances is what's coming through. So for some of you, it might almost be sort of like the story of how the two of you have met might be something that's for the books. It's something that's very rare. It's very unique. There's a lot of signs and synchronicities with that of kind of like, yeah, this was divine timing at play. This is fate. This is destiny. There's something more here. This is that reward for being very diligent in ascending beyond the limits of a previous path in life or in love. And there's a sense of almost like very encouraged about what the future can be between the two of you. That if this is already a reward for their hard work or tough choices they've had to make in the past, then there's a sense of almost like a beautiful energy that in and of itself can conquer any obstacles the two of you might face. They may see you as kind of the other part of a power couple for them. And a sense of not feeling threatened by whatever it will take to kind of earn your trust, or, you know, to kind of gradually build in the direction of like, okay, we're each kind of tending our own garden, but then we're exchanging that harvest with one another. We're co-creating with one another, like they're up for that challenge. If distance is a factor, or if there are other kind of like worldly circumstances that might be kind of a bit challenging to this situation, this is like, I'm up to that challenge. Bring it. I will rise to that occasion. I'll be patient if I need to. I'll be gentle with your heart. I'll continue to take ownership within myself so I don't push you away out of that woundedness. I won't be thwarted by these external circumstances that mean we can't just snap our fingers and we're at happily ever after. We gotta like build slowly and build consistently. With this idea of portals, again, it's like a door of opportunity to something else. You offer this person a chance for a fresh start, a new beginning, the opportunity to love again after they've kind of brushed that off as a possibility. They kind of eliminated that within themselves, sort of like, I guess it's not meant for me in this life. And they've worked very hard to be okay with that, to love themselves, to trust in the nature of that. To know that they've chosen something better for themselves at some point, and that this might have isolated them from conventional relationships. They've chosen to work on patterns, and therefore this is somebody that has maybe been struggling to find their place in romance with another because they're self-created emotionally. This is a phoenix from the ashes of like an old wounded version of them. They've conquered that wounded version, and they've been walking forth into the future prior to meeting you, or for a while, is just kind of like, okay, so maybe that I'm that love of my life. Maybe in this lifetime, that was the goal, that was the purpose. I rescued me. I am that complete love story. And now you've come along and there's a wider perspective of like, but wait, there's something more. Keep going along that path, because you don't just have to kind of go it alone. And they're seeing you as somebody that either would understand that. Maybe you've been walking a very similar path. You have a similar journey. Life has asked the same thing of you, or given the same option to you as it has to them. And so there's a sense that you could understand things that they've been through, or like choices that they've had to make, even an approach that they're taking to this situation of really prioritizing like themselves and kind of where they're at or what they have going on, not from just a selfish place, but like a self-loving place, that you could honor and respect that, while at the same time, you know, holding space and aligning for yourself with that same kind of draw. And in the midst of all of that, there's a sense that they feel that like to progress forward romantically with you would be a new type of experience. Two people who are both unified with one another and liberated within the connection. You're somebody that they could grow and evolve with through the seasons of their life. You're not just someone who fits with the here and now, but you're somebody that brings a very dynamic experience or a very dynamic energy in that signals there's a lot of growth potential within this situation, both as people and in terms of what's possible in romance, or the nature of that romantic experience and how it affects each of you on deeper levels and outward levels as well. So let's get some message cards from their higher self and see what they want you to know right now. Okay, and we have, am I deserving of your love? So there's a sense that this person is thinking about like a romantic gesture, something that they want to do or say that lets you know how meaningful you are to them, how much the time that you've spent together or your exchanges with one another has affected them very positively. This can even involve that energy of like, I want you to meet my friends, I want you to meet my family, I want you to meet my kids, I, want to express these deeper truths to you. Something that lets you know that this is not just somebody that wants like a surface level connection or something temporary, but they're really thinking in terms of like developing that closeness between you. We also have, I smell your scent around me. So they're deeply magnetized to you. There's a deep sense of familiarity. This might have even been something where when you met or very early on in your connection, there's a sense of soul familiarity. This can be a past life connection, like a past life lover that has moved through time in order to find you. They're thinking in that kind of broader context, like it's no accident that we've encountered one another. You're very intoxicating to this person, not just in terms of like who you are on a surface level, but something within their soul that says, yes, this is the one. We also have, you never leave my thoughts. So it feels like a big decision that they're making or certain plans that they've kind of laid in place that they might have started to work towards or build kind of earlier on in the connection or, prior to meeting you even. There's a sense of almost like asking themselves, how do you fit into this? What is some kind of way that I can make space for you within this equation while also honoring what you have going on in your life as well? Like you're a point of consideration and decisions that they're making at this point. They also say, I feel your love. So you have shown this person love and respect and like a high vibrational experience that far exceeds words. Like whatever you said has really resonated with them. It's touched them very deeply. It's very genuine. It's very authentic. It's very meaningful. But there's a sense of almost like the truth of the energy that is behind those words or the intentions or the way that you kind of conduct yourself around them, or just even like you conduct yourself in your life in general. There's a sense of like you feel right. You feel like the person that is aligned with my highest good. You feel like that destiny that life is pushing me to reach towards. And so there's a sense that they're looking at any obstacles or challenges with the sense of like, I can overcome these things. We can do this together because this feels right. And I don't want to let this opportunity with you pass me by. They also say, be patient with me, my love. Yeah, so there's a sense of like they want to make the next experience with you or this next season of experiences or kind of like the relationship moving forward. They want to make that very special for the two of you. So they're taking time to really look within themselves and like, okay, if I had to make like the ideal romance, the storybook romance, that grand gesture that might even just be in something very simple, something very sweet, something very heartfelt, like what would that be like? There's a sense that they like ordinary moments with you, but they definitely feel that there's an invitation to kind of sprinkle the magic of like a next level love into this situation, that you're the type of person that would appreciate that, would reciprocate that in kind, that would be kind of worthy of this level of effort within them or creativity from within them. They also say, you are my mirror. Yeah, so this person sees you as their other half, their counterpart, their twin flame, yin to their yang, yang to their yin, their soulmate, their soul love, their forever love. They are completely smitten with you. They don't want to have distance kind of divide the two of you, if that's internal, external, or some kind of combination of the two. There is a sense of like, I want to fight for this situation. Nobody else feels right. I am being pulled towards you as we speak, and I'm actively making that progression towards you as well. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got B, X, W, O, R, W, M, D, V, T, H, O, G, H, and Y. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you'd like a personal reading, there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another video. Please take care and be well.